sat comfortably, or we don't want you to be sitting very comfortably. Yeah, just to make a short introduction. Very glad to see so many of you here. This is part of our School of Performance and Cultural Industries postgraduate research seminar series. And I'd like to thank the Audience Experience and Engagement Research Group and also the Culture Capital Exchange for their help in organizing this for funding and publicity. And welcome to this conversation. And indeed, the aim that we have today is to make this a 4-hour conversation and inquiry. And as starting point of each conversation, we have two 15-minute speakers that will be presenting work that is related. We have asked them, they either use participatory formats or they situate the work within this framework of participation. So the questions. So yeah, the starting point basically is to bring into the space artists and creative practitioners. And so the questions that they have been exploring, but it's like they don't have to as well, is how do they perceive their role within these works as creators of the work, and then we can open up a discussion of how, as audiences as well, they perceive their role within these works. What do they think that they contextualize with their practice? And what constitutes something else pseudo-participatory? Now this is, the last one is something that we're opening up to you as well. So there is a specific focus on any difficulties, resistances they have come across when asking audiences to participate or when creating the work itself, the ethical dilemmas, the blurring of the author, authorship boundaries, politics of participation. In a time where the innocence of participation or even the implied freedom that it used to promise are being reconsidered. And we aim today to create a space of conversation and a participatory doing, and we invite you to this. So I invite you today to go along with Harpin and Nicholson, who suggest that it makes no sense to make a sharp distinction between participation as active, rebellious, critical, and non-participation as passive, receptive, docile. So it's about bridging and blurring these boundaries. So some of the questions that some of the speakers may address is like, how might technology help towards breaking this binary? Or how might reflection or an invitation into someone's memories be a participatory event? Other questions related to agency, the agency of the audience and that of the creator, institutions like funding applications, benefit to the public. All these might be addressed by our speakers today. And as demonstrated through our poster, we want you to participate, but with a pinch of salt. So after each two speakers, so after each 15 plus 15 minutes, we will invite the speakers to go back to their seat, and we will encourage each other and everyone here to exchange our thoughts and make participation happen. So each one of these 15-minute intervals are like 50 minutes speaker, 50 minutes speaker, and then an interval of 50 minutes. It's going to be chaired by one of my colleagues here at PCI. Their role is to kickstart each session. And as you can see, this is the schedule. The original idea was to have an open space set up where we would have post-it notes. Maybe some of you have have done this before and post them on a wall, and then people get these questions, take them to a round table and discuss about them. However, because since there's not a default way of participation, we believe that there's not a default way of conversation. And so we invite you to take part in an experiment where after the chairs have kick-started the conversation, I would like you to use your place in the space, your seat, maybe move your seat in the space, take some of the materials that are provided around, and be aware of the participatory ecology that we're creating throughout these 4 hours. And can we invent new ways of conversing in this space? That's the experiment. And we're still following the overall idea, though, of the open space. So during the speakers, you're welcome to write any questions you have or any thoughts and place them in front of you, and they're ready for discussion. So yes, you will be guided by the chair, but we welcome you to move around. If you don't feel that you're being productive in a conversation, just move to another part of the space. This is the Twitter account. You can tweet on our new postgraduate research Twitter account, and there's a Facebook page. And I haven't printed the bios, but you can check them here. The event is being partly recorded, so if you have a problem with that, you can come and let me know, and I'll make sure you're sat in a place that you're not being recorded. So, yeah, we're ready to start, but before we do, I'd like to do a bonding exercise. So, I'll just give you the instructions, and you will work around it. So the instructions are, I'm not going to participate. So the instructions are that one of you has one side of the wool and throws it to the other person, and says their name out loud. And the aim is to make visible connections between people. So it's about holding the string while you throw it. Let's see what happens.
Rebecca? Whoops. Sorry, am I saying my name or the name of the person I'm throwing it to? Your name. My name, so sorry. Harpin. It's ambitious.
Sam.
Alison.
I'm terrible at Friday. Apart from myself Thursday. Okay, Sarah. Sorry. Yes. Well, that's the problem.
Elena. Kelly. Echo.
Rosie. Julia.
Ali.
From the other end.
We also have more here. Bianca.
Scott.
Kelly. Sorry. Why don't you just say? Oh.
You sure?
Yeah.
Sure. Kelly.
Bravo. Yaroslava.
Katie.
Underdropped it.
Emma.
Who's not done
Liza.
Josh Smith.
Ben.
Woo, that was
Who hasn't thought of it?
And so Ben is our first speaker.
How does that happen?
Don't worry, this is not going to happen every time.
I don't know.
I didn't bring a PowerPoint, which might be good. I've got a couple of videos. So my name's Ben Eyes. I'm a composer and what's become sound artist is the name given to some people who do what I do. I'm based in York. I'm currently studying a PhD in composition. And so today I'm going to talk about the ethics of what I do in terms of recording, field recording specifically, and some of the questions that I find myself asking when I'm doing the work I do. I don't have any answers really, but I'm sure we'll have a discussion about some of the stuff that comes up. About 3 years ago, I started a project basically based around field recording in the UK. Don't know if anyone remembers, there was some severe storms winter of 2014 or 15, maybe 2 years ago. And this really inspired me to kind of do some kind of documentation of our island, to create a piece that kind of commented on the climate change that we're experiencing, and to kind of make a piece of art that would kind of represent all my feelings about those things. So I started recording everything and travelling around the country to different places. So I went to Northumberland, Wales, London, more Wales, more Northumbria, Scotland, Yorkshire, and just did loads of recording basically, recorded as much as I could using this little field recorder here, my mobile phone, some cameras, some kind of higher quality field recording equipment, and obviously after a year I had a lot of stuff. And then I put it together into a piece and wrote some music to accompany the field recordings. So what I'm going to do now is show you, and it was a piece, sorry, that lasted 11 minutes in the end. I performed it several times with different people, and it got released on a label in America in the end, kind of on the music label. So this extract here now is just
If you go down the high street, you see the kind of rubbish that's in these shop windows. Because one down there, they're talking about self-made, and all this promotion of self-love, and taking your own photo, and cleaning and posturing, and trying to be seen with famous people, you know, and so-called celebrities. This is the worship of the creature. It's nothing less, nothing more than the worship of man. God said.
So that was a preacher on Oxford Street, I think, and I was obviously filming him surreptitiously and recording what he said using just my phone camera. Now I've got another bit which I as well. Brilliant. Yeah, so that was a taxi driver, again I think on Soho or something like that. And he, obviously, he knew I was filming him because we kind of started riffing, got the drum machine going and stuff like that. So in that sense it's slightly different kind of experience. And so those two performances, if you like, for them used as well as the other field recordings that I made, and I'll play you a bit of that now, if it's in the right place.
Cease ye from man.
I had an interesting time with the ethics committee at uni. It was really strange because to me, you know, I've been doing this since I was a kid, recording things, so I don't really know the ethics of it and never looked into it. And legally, for this talk, I looked into it, and something like law and regulations on filming in public places vary between countries. France does not permit public filming. I'm guessing that means recording as well, while the USA and the UK do. Some restrictions depending on political context. So you can't film in courts, record audio in courts, prisons, different places like that. And obviously there's surreptitious phone recording, so you're not allowed to do that without telling the other person on the line that you're recording them. Obviously I've done that. So the other kind of side of it, as well as kind of people like me go around with these recorders or mobile phones quite often now, is ethnomusicologists have been recording people all around the world making music for their research. And obviously there was a kind of power battle there. A tribe some 65 years ago has only recently been given the music that they recorded in Africa, in a Kenyan village. And the woman that recorded it turned up with a CD and was like, "Here guys, 65 years ago," of course they didn't have a CD player, and asked if they could get the track on their mobile phone. But so there's a kind of power balance going on. I also dug up a transcribable underground track from 1991 called Temple Head, which sampled a field recording of a Tahitian gospel choir who were neither consulted nor paid for the hook of the song, and the band claimed that they'd taken the chorus some 10 years ago. It was revealed it was a series of recordings of South Sea music that they ripped off and not got copyright claim. So in a sense, when I'm recording, I'm a passive participant. I kind of surreptitiously move around something like this, which looks like a phone or some sort of device, so no one really glances or notices what you're doing, which often means you can get very candid recordings and people aren't aware that you're recording. Obviously I don't want to tell people that I'm recording because that would change the state that they're in, but also there is possibly some ethical issues. The guy talking in the piece there possibly may have been in some mental distress. He was religious, obviously. That came up in the ethics committee because my supervisor at the time happened to be religious, so said that he agreed with a lot of what the street preacher was saying. That made it quite hard for me to kind of navigate the ethics around that. Luckily, the committee saw that it was part of a musical piece and kind of essential, and I left it alone. But it brought up some interesting questions. Also, are we, you know, one thing when I was thinking about this was, is our job to be ethical and moral, or is it to comment? And how involved do we get in something? So if I'm, say, recording a car crash by accident, you know, is that out of bad taste? Is that too far? Or is it something that should be told, or should the story that should be repeated? And it's similar to kind of maybe the ethics that journalists face when following wars and stuff like that. Just one more thing really. So I'm working at the moment on a piece about geological data, and although it's not field recording, I'm using kind of data from events. So we took data from central Italy where the earthquake was last year, 2016. And my friend happened to be there at the time and experienced the earthquake. Still got tinnitus in his ear. For some reason he's asking me what do we do about it, and I'll get to sleep. Anyway, yeah, basically out of the back of that we wrote a piece using data from the gorge, and yeah, we kind of constructed this piece of music to kind of almost represent the earthquake, really. And obviously people have died in this earthquake, and my friend's still enduring trauma from it. So there's some ethics around this as well, I feel. But I'll play a bit of the piece. Are we doing the time? Okay, so it's going to be 1 minute last.
involuntary participation, we're going to Emma G, who has the answer. Participation.
I'm just wondering what you did with that 30 seconds I gave you. And is it still going on? And is it authorship? Hello, my name's Emma. Hello, boys and girls.
Hello.
Thank you. For those of you that have reference points for British primary schools, that will be ringing lots of bells. Thank you for that. Just thought I'd let you know I'm more important than you. Oh yes, I am. Oh no, you're not. Thank you for the one or two that I listened to some kind of reference point with British pantomime there. But I am more important than you because I am the author. Participation isn't all it seems, perhaps. And of course, in suggesting that I'm the author, I'm going to totally undermine the argument that I'm about to offer, because a lecture format fails my thesis from the start, because it's premised on predetermined authorship, mine, unless of course I operate within event aesthetics. So in my practice-led research, I've been using and abusing, probably, adapting, developing twisting Erica Fischer-Lichter's notion of event aesthetics in that book there that my mum loaned me in 2013. She's now got her PhD. Here's hoping I follow suit. And mainly what I wanted to play with was this notion of authorship. So Ben sort of raised that right from the off, and so do Harpin and Nicholson. That what is it that participation seems to be giving you? And that notion of authorial power and trying to give that up maybe hasn't been as easy as I thought it might be. However, I do have the answer. I think there's a whole load of things that Harpin and Nicholson are asking for in participation or wanting considered, and I suspect event aesthetics may be the aesthetic that can hold that set of desires. So Harpin and Nicholson, what do they want? Have a little look at that. So I'm really, really interested in this notion of kind of profound and contradictory consequences, because I've found plenty in the practice that I've been doing over the last 4 years. And one of the key ones is that participation generates a savvy participant, because with each encounter there is an accumulation of knowledge. And invariably that is going to test and twist and push at the kind of aesthetic frameworks that you're operating in. So let's have a little look at what Harpin and Nicholson were looking at and what they're meaning by participation. This is ever so quick, it's too succinct really to do them justice, but I thought this was really critical, that participation in the 20th century, which I was doing an awful lot of back then in the day, came from an ethos. Ben's already talked about ethics, but it had a start point in an ethos and was left-leaning and generally felt to be positive. So it would have got through the ethics committee, no bother. Whereas now, up for grabs. Apply to anything. You know, as a result of that lack of affiliation, can then be problematic in terms of ethics. Ben Fletcher-Watson, whose focus is primarily on work with young people, particularly small children, is referencing the notion of tyranny there that Harpin and Nicholson reflect to. So, you know, it's a tricky thing now, participation, particularly if people have got clever with it and all want a bit of authorship. Oops. But anyway, up the revolution, we're all storming the stage then. That's a good thing, isn't it? As lunatics, we're running the asylum now. Are we worried at all about that? Do we want to participate in that? Can we not wait to participate? Because let's face it, authorship is beckoning. It's going to be down to you. I think Christina referenced it when she spoke, but Harpin and Nicholson just kind of bring us back for a moment and talk about the cuddly and inevitability of the binary. It's kind of a default position for us all, and it's something that I keep tripping up into, but they're asking for something much, much more complex, something that addresses the now of our 21st century times, where we were adrift from those kind of ethical standpoints from the off. But we keep falling into them. And they talk about not only participation versus non-participation, but the politics of participation, agency versus control. And yet back we go to that wonderful binary, watch out, it's cuddly. But it's all right, I have the answer. It's event aesthetics. And here Fischer-Lichter is wanting to see the erasure of those binary oppositions in action, in an active aesthetic. Doing that primarily through the generation of dialogue, the dialogic, so the Bakhtinian notion of the dialogic, to generate difference. So you cannot have a predetermined authorship. and my practice has been trying to erase my authorship endlessly, because it's requiring that we're all authoring. Hooray! Up the revolution again. But nor is it that cuddly. We've not got any cuddles here, because it's about generating difference. It's about as many valid ideas in the space as there are people who are having those ideas. And breaking down any kind of hierarchy that may be in operation with authorial power. Ben talked about the difficulty of that kind of authorial power. And embracing that notion of the both and, that the inherent contradiction of embodying both at the same time, that which it is opposite to. Zizek's the parallax, going in that, the Mobius strip of never touching but always in relation, always holding that tension. I also like both and, because and just seems to suggest that there is always a little bit more to come. So I had the answer there, I think. Event aesthetics will deliver that requirement of Harpin and Nicholson. So what else are they after? This notion of making power visible is really critical here, I think. Visible, known. So in addition to actually you can see it, you can actually feel it, you can hear it. Ben may actually find that his audio stuff can make that ethical dilemma manifest. I suspect it does. I think, which is great. And event aesthetics, again, is the aesthetics for you. I hope I'm being really persuasive here. Take it up, it's great. It'll do everything Harpin and Nicholson want. Because it operates in immanence. Now, immanence isn't a Fischer-Lichter term. That's something that I've drawn, it's all over the place, but drawn specifically from Laura Cole and her work on Deleuze. But that notion of being in a constant presence, and one that we are all sharing, so the dismantling of any kind of hierarchical arrangement. We're all in it together, so every viewpoint is valid, so we're back to that dialogic difference again. So this is the space of this aesthetic. Fischer-Lichter's term is multi-stability, same set of notions. I think there's a correlation there, which is how come I've kind of journeyed on that particular route. But the idea of being in a perceptual environment, which you have to be spontaneous in, that where you're improvisational, again back to the dialogic, that because somebody's just said that, you're now thinking that, you wouldn't have had that thought necessarily as you entered the room. And so what emerges is co-authorship. So the promise that Harpin and Nicholson see from participation is potentially realised through Fischer-Lichter's concept of co-authorship, which is realising that moment of all in it together, through which stuff emerges. It may well be unintentional. We haven't pre-written this. So the idea of authorial power is getting tripped up and disrupted, because it's being, the work itself is being generated in the dialogue we're having right now. But you can see why I'm saying that this format is undermining my argument. But it's all right. Event aesthetics will resolve all of that. What else do Harpin and Nicholson want of us in participation? What's interesting here is this notion of addressing norms, the mundanity, the quotidian, is here directed at participation by Harpin and Nicholson. I suspect that Fischer-Lichter is extending, and does extend that, to engagement to life itself. So, transformation is a key term in the title of her book there, and a key notion underpins event aesthetics. So event aesthetics isn't happening unless it is addressing the mundane and the quotidian, unless it is taking you through a re-seeing of that to a point where you're re-enchanted. I've bracketed re there, only because you may never have seen it. It was so obvious in the first place. And you're seeing it for the first time, in which case, you know, you're probably being enchanted. But that notion of liminality, that actual sort of recruitment to going to a space where you can consider where suspension of norms is taking place, so that you can think about those norms. Critically in event aesthetics, and possibly not so much in some practice around kind of like fully immersive practice, you've got to come back. There's got to be a return, rather than being sort of booted out into the street at that high point of detachment, but coming back so that re-enchantment can take place. But if you want to look at participation and see again, there you go. Fischer-Lichter has the answer. It's the transformative power of event aesthetics. So, Harpin and Nicholson are suggesting that participation is more than just the doing, but it's the impact of that doing and what that brings to bear. And I like that they want mess. I think that's delightful. And I think, surprisingly, you can probably see a theme by now, I have the answer for that: operate within event aesthetics. Because you do not get messier than the real. And underpinning all of Fischer-Lichter's notion about the event aesthetics is that it dismantles the autonomy of art. It dismantles that separation, that it's okay, this isn't real folk, this is just pretend that we're doing. Although in doing so, it is potentially dismantling that which appears to be safe. I'm not sure that playing was ever safe. It certainly wasn't when I was a kid. But nevertheless, she wants us to come out from that excuse, if you like, and see that the aesthetic that you're constructing is in and of itself not only about, but constructing, as it emerges, the political and the ethical. And certainly what Ben was saying about his work is that, you know, here I am making this work with other people's material. I'm constructing the ethical here and now. And that goes all the way back to a 21st century reading of participation in which we haven't taken that an ethical stance to start off with. We could be operating in the unethical. But if you want messy, event aesthetics has the answer: operate in the real. Because there it is, all that lovely real. So finally, Harpin and Nicholson want to recognise, and by saying politically important, to recognising the operation in the real, looking at this disentangling of intention and reception. I have a nice little quote from Mouffe here. There is an aesthetic dimension in the political, and there is a political dimension in art. It's not useful to make a distinction between the political and the non-political arts. We're back to these kind of, let's not operate in the binaries, let's operate in the both and of what participation is doing and drawing attention to. I just wonder whether I had the answer. I just wonder whether there's any modicum of persuasion that event aesthetics might be an aesthetic realm in which you could play with those things, and that the difference engine that it is, thank you Ada Lovelace, is the tangling and the problematizing that we're looking for. I don't think it's about making this an easy thing. I think it's about making a distinct set of problems. But I would say that in my own practice, when it comes to authorship, which is where I started with Harpin and Nicholson, and this promise and this offer, one thing I've never been able to distangle myself from in terms of the power base is the fact that I author the invitations and the initiations of my practice. And I invariably am the author of the culmination of that work. Usually out of sheer pragmatics, somebody wants to close the building down and people want to go home. But nevertheless, that is predetermined authorship, and I've not yet shaken the shackles of that. So have I failed? Is event not the answer? Is there no answer there? Or is the fact that event exposes that problem and airs that ethical dilemma what it's about? Anyway, that's the end of my sole authorship. And hopefully here difference begins and co-authorship may emerge. And I wonder whether I was persuasive. Thank you.
Okay, so this is our first sort of 15-minute pause for discussion. And I'm going to try and get us to generate some trigger points for discussion, but in the spirit of participation and multi-authorship, I'm going to leave it largely to the group. So what I'm going to ask each of you to do is to think of just a quick one word or a quick response to either or both of the papers, or something that you might think of. And then when I say it, we're all going to say what our word is. Then we repeat a word that we've heard again and again until we end up with one or two very clear words that we're all saying. Does that make sense? No. So it will become clear. Think of a word in response, something that encapsulates a response from you to the papers. Anyone have one? Doesn't have to be big, just something that will get us going. Okay, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, everyone says their word. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Participatory.
Okay. And now everybody says a word that you heard in that time. 3, 2, 1, go.
Stability.
Okay, and again a word that you heard. 3, 2, 1, go.
Power.
Well, that was powerful. Excellent. I don't know what we want to do with that, but I think there are a few things hanging in the air. I feel power is strong. As our first kind of point, if anyone would like to jump in or to pick up the threads, as it were, that are hanging.
Yes, we open it up to you for the next 15 minutes, and maybe an idea would be if you pass me your chair and we can sort of make some opposite relationships between the two of you. So yeah, we can make a bit of a dialogue. If you have any post-it notes that there are if you would like to discuss.
Good job,